It's quite interesting how much more complicated things get when you become quote-unquote rich and famous. Failure doesn't mean defeat, more so like try again, shit, try even harder. Revise your steps and rewrite your future. What a weird time that 2020 was. The whole world was shut down, we were all inside and I had so much free time to do anything. Many of us just sat there on our asses and did basically nothing. It was a perfect time to follow our dreams, to finally pick up that hobby that we wanted to try for years, or to just lock in whether it be for school or jobs, but a lot of us just didn't. It was hard to find any motivation or purpose as everything was so bleak and depressing. It was hard to push ourselves to do basically anything. But not everyone was like that. A kid by the name of Ash started to pursue his passion for music. It was easier than ever to make music as he had a lot of free time and sites like Discord allowed him to meet producers and other like-minded artists. At this time, a little genre of music started to make its rounds on the internet known as hyperpop. Ash, now known as Glaive, hopped on the hyperpop train and quickly became one of the leading faces of the once niche internet genre. In November of 2020, after a couple of singles, he released his first project in the form of the EP titled Cypress Grove. The EP includes some of his early hits such as Ash Street, D&D and Pissed. Glaive not only used the current hyperpop sound on this EP, but he also mixed in elements of digicore, alt-pop and the lyrical angst of emo rap. It was a pretty successful project released under Interscope Records. 2020 was a breakout year for Glaive as he already signed to a label, he had a couple hit songs and was making big moves in the underground hyperpop scene. Although 2021 would be arguably an even better year for him as he would drop 2 EPs. The first one being All Dogs Go to Heaven, which was looked by many as a slightly worse version of his debut EP, but it still had hits and some pretty awesome tracks. Sonically, it was a continuation of the hyperpop/digicore sound, but with a bit more focus on the alt-pop sound that now contained a bit more variety in instrumentation. And also later in the year, Glaive would drop a collab EP with Eric DOA. Eric is an artist that also made music in that hyperpop digicore lane. The two joined forces to release their collab EP titled Then I'll Be Happy. The EP was super successful and contained bangers like Heather, Clock and Dagger and Fuck This Town. It was a very big release for the two as they also went on a joint tour. I personally don't really care for this EP. Glaive's previous 2 EPs cleared this one in my opinion as this one is very safe and some of the vocals on here are so awkward and weird. Also, Glaive and Eric weren't that different from each other and it doesn't sound like a combination of 2 different artists. It just comes across as a very safe and often awkward collab effort that tries to be more poppy than their previous works. Although 2021 in terms of quality wasn't up to par with 2020 in my opinion, it was definitely a more successful year for Glaive. 2022 saw Glaive go on as many tours as possible. He went on his first headlining tour across US and then Europe while also being an opener for the Kid Laroi. Later in the year, he also went on another solo tour and also released a deluxe version of his second EP. The deluxe version was titled Old Dog New Tricks, which to add is a perfect name for the deluxe. It gave fans a total of 5 new tracks, which were for the most part pretty great. Glaive was on top of his game, he was touring the world and he was one of the most popular faces of hyperpop as by this time he was a whole pioneer of it. But the release of Old Dog New Tricks would unofficially be the end of Glaive's hyperpop run. No one would know this at the time, but Glaive would kinda switch genres out of nowhere. Songs like Minnesota is a place that exists, 3 Wheels and It Still Drives, and his feature on MGK's song More Than Life would see Glaive try his hands in this indie rock sound rather than his usual hyperpop electronic style. It wasn't that strange as Glaive's music always contained guitar licks and indie elements, but in regards to the rec sound, this was pretty out of nowhere. This change in style was met with mixed reviews. Some welcomed this new experiment that Glaive was trying, while others weren't that open to it. I'm not gonna lie, I don't like this style for Glaive at all, and the main reason is his 2023 debut album titled I Care So Much That I Don't Care at All. Released in 2023, the 35 debut record from Glaive is a prime showcase of this whole era. After years of making hyperpop and being one of its best and most popular faces, he completely ditches it for this new indie rock sound. It's such a slap in the face for everyone, I'm not gonna lie. The longtime hyperpop fans couldn't predict that Glaive's debut album would be a full-on indie rock record. Now, I don't have a problem with him ditching the hyperpop sound for something completely different, it's just that this style of music just doesn't work for him. His usual vocal preset works so against these types of instrumentals. His vocals come off so flat and awkward, and the melodies on this record are straight up ass. The instrumentals are also horrendous. They really tried going for this mix of indie rock mixed with folk and pop, and everything just ended up sounding so bland and uninteresting. I can see how this sort of record can sound good to people that aren't that into indie rock or just rock in general, but in my opinion, it just doesn't work. It's very basic and sounds like a baby's first attempt of making rock music. I would say that he completely missed the mark with this album, as this project really split the fan base. I'm all for artists experimenting and trying out new things, in fact I encourage it, but this is just tragic. But when you make something as bland as this project, I can't defend it. I really don't want to hate the album, as the passion can be heard behind Glaive's processed vocals. The intro track is a perfect example of passionate lyrics and vocal deliveries from Glaive, but it's also a very rare sighting of it. The song has a very nice build and release, which I don't think many of the songs on this album have. As If is also a pretty cool song with a very catchy melody. I've made worse mistakes is also fine. I'm telling you, this album can be decent at points, but it's really rare. I really do commend Glaive for making this album, as he really poured his soul on this record. The lyrics contain very personal topics about growing up, mental health, relationships, and family. It's just a shame that it's hard to focus on the lyrics because the technical parts of the record were so bad. Now, I know I said that Old Dog New Tricks was the end of Glaive's hyperpop era, which I don't think that I was that far off. Meet Ovine Hall. Ovine Hall is Glaive's alter ego that he created around the rollout for his debut album. On this account, Glaive would release songs which were sort of similar to his early hyperpop sound, but at the same time were something completely new. This account contains songs with very bare bones electronic instrumentals with some pretty rough mixing and some pitched up vocals. It kinda gave the old fans some new music that was sorta similar to his older work with a new, more experimental twist. He released a self-titled EP in 2023 simply titled Ovine Hall, which contained 4 tracks. Each song feels like a demo that was meant for something new and exciting for Glaive. After the very polarizing 2023, Glaive was kinda stuck as an artist. At that point, it's almost been 2 years since he put out music in his signature hyperpop style, and his new indie rock sound that was seen on his debut album was very hit or miss for fans. He knew that he had to release something new, which would in a way please everyone that was once a fan of him or still was a fan of him. A bit of a mad one is Glaive's 4th EP at this time and is one of his best projects to date. Released on the 23rd of February 2024, Glaive proved to the world that he was back and better than ever. Recorded in Alaska, A Bit of a Mad One would see Glaive experiment with the raw production style of Ovine Hall with elements of digicore, folk, electronic music, and indie-tronica. It's such a unique sound that Glaive started on this EP that would become a staple of his generational 2024 run. The intro track, Even When the Sun Is Dead, Will You Tell Them How Hard I Tried, is a perfect example of this new mixture of sounds. The song starts with some acoustics and Glaive is singing about his partner. He's almost directly talking to his partner, explaining how much he loves them and how much joy they bring to him. In the middle of the intro, the instrumental starts to pick up, but nothing drops as we just transition into the verse in which Glaive expresses how scared he is. The main focus of this is Glaive's paranoia of death. He is scared but also accepts that death is inevitable and that is just a part of life. He really is trying not to think about it, but no matter how hard he tries, it's still a big worry of him. Then the beat drops in this huge EDM production style and Glaive is saying how he has everything on this earth except time. He's trying to make the best of it, but the whole song has this vibe that he thinks that he isn't doing enough for his loved ones. He asks his partner to tell everyone how hard he tried to be a good person, no matter how hard he truly tried. The outro of the song goes back to the lyrics of the intro and the acoustic guitar returns, and eventually the song ends as we transition into the next track. I Don't Really Feel It Anymore is such a banger of a track. I can't explain the sound of the instrumental, as you should just go and check it out for yourself. The song contains additional vocals from Dora Jar and they really add such a unique element to the track. The actual song is a breakup track, but more in the style of Future's writing. Glaive feels numb to everything and at first seems kinda sad about the whole breakup, but when this line hits,
Pray to God you're fine, but not as fine as you were before.
We can see that Glaive doesn't give a fuck about his relationship anymore. The only verse in the song is such a good example of Glaive's personal yet potent lyricism. Glaive reflects on their relationship and how fun it is looking back at it. Now he has better things to do and even says that his mom wasn't a fan of his partner when they were together. He for real is baby future on this song. This track also contains the best lyrics on this whole EP.
I feel like a girl up there when I come home in these Prada shoes.
As I've been called a feminine man before. It's like a joke with me and my friends that I'm low-key a girl because the way I dress and all the jewelry that I wear, so I kinda relate to this lyric. The chorus repeats and we transition into the third track called Huh. This is probably the closest song on this EP that sounds like Glaive's early music. It has beat-crush synths, heavy bass hits and fast-paced flows. It was the first single for the EP and at the time I remember people were so hyped for it as it almost marked a return to form from Glaive. The song is about Glaive's enormous love for this girl as he would die for her as she is the only thing that he ever wanted. The lyrics and the amount of simping that Glaive portrays in this song really reminds me of Blade's song Baby. Nonetheless, Haha is a great song that really showcases the new and improved electronic production style that Glaive seamlessly raps over. Hope Alaska National Anthem is the only miss on this EP as I just don't find it interesting. It's a simple acoustic song that doesn't have much progression and it's very simple in presentation. The lyrics are cool, I guess, easily the best part of the song. God Is Dead on the Other Side is an absolute banger of a track. It's a mix of the acoustic folky sound with some massive EDM drops around the chorus. The song is about Glaive's trauma and his hopelessness for the world as he constantly reminds the listener that God is truly dead. He kinda gave up on everything and God's death symbolizes that. Living Proof That It Hurts is easily one of Glaive's most personal songs to date and one of his all-time best. The song starts with just an acoustic guitar that over the course of the first and only verse grows in intensity as additional synths and production elements are added. In the verse, Glaive reflects on his relationships with other people, drug abuse, suicide, and growing up. The best line on this track is easily
My family thinks I'm pushing through it, but I'm not, I'm just not man enough to do it.
It really resonates with me as when I'm going through life and especially now as I'm older, have so many responsibilities, I don't want to show my disinterest for anything. I always say I'm doing fine and I always brush it off when someone asks me how everything is going, but in reality I just want to disappear somewhere where no one will hold me accountable for my actions. I know that's irresponsible, but damn, life has been fucking hard recently. This song really helped me to deal with everything and it gives me comfort that I'm not alone in this whole life situation. But after the verse ends, the song also explodes into this distorted mess with heavy drums, distorted vocals and heavy guitars. In the outro, Glaive repeats this phrase that symbolizes his displeasure with himself. The final track of this EP is the song Phobie d'Expulsion, which translates to impulse phobia. This refers to the act of suddenly committing aggressive acts on yourself or the people around you or other things around you. For this song, it's kinda hinted that Glaive wants to commit suicide. In whole, this track is a complete character analysis of Glaive as he really delves deep into his fears. He mentions how he doesn't like social events, in this case parties, how he looks back on his prior wishes in life and sees how bad they would have been for him and his suicidal thoughts. It's a very open song which ends this EP on a sonically happy and positive note, but lyrically Glaive is honest with himself, but it doesn't seem that any of his problems are solved. A bit of a mad one was a return to form for Glaive in terms of quality. The new sound was definitely a welcome change this time around as it combined each of his previous sounds into one. After a bit of a mad one, Glaive would announce that he would go to Iceland to work on his second album by the name of By Birthright. He would also release a single called Tijuana Freestyle which was supposed to be on a bit of a mad one. He also opened for the Kid Leroy again and released a couple of Lucy's on Ovine Hall. He would eventually rename the album to May It Never Falter and would start teasing it through snippets on his socials. I remember this era of snippets as I would be in school and just wait for the new snippet to release on his socials. I think that it was a very great rollout, and a couple of days before the album, Glaive released the lead single for the album called Live and Direct. The song featured curtains and people weren't very happy with the single. It had very mixed reviews, but I fucking loved it at least. A couple of days later, the album would randomly drop on the 11th of October. Forgotten Country serves as the first track to the album. It opens with some layered vocals singing in Latin and the lyrics translate to the album's name. The instrumental for the first verse features some spacious sounds, piano and some background vocals. Glaive talks about how he is perceived by some as mature, but he doesn't think so. He tried to end his own life multiple times, but now looking back at it, he's happy that he never acted on his thoughts as he could have missed out on the beauties of life. If he had ended it all, it would have been very selfish of him as he had people that were trying to help him out, but he just dismissed them. The vocals sing in Latin come back, but the beat builds with some very fat synths, heavy bass hits and some percussion. In the second verse, Glaive reflects on his past life situations and shows how much he grew as a person from the past. He no longer feels as depressed as he once did and now doesn't see his partner as the only thing worth living for. The whole time that Glaive reflects on the verse, the beat builds and builds until it explodes and Glaive starts yelling, talking about how things are not over until he has the final word and how grateful he is that he didn't end his own life when he thought about it. The instrumental slows down and transitions into the next song called 60,000 ISK. The song starts with a female voice talking in Icelandic. Then Glaive starts talking about something? Then the beat explodes and you immediately get hit with that fat, twisted and distorted bass line that goes throughout the whole chorus. Glaive talks about having 60,000 ISK, which translates to around $400 roughly. He uses money as a form of safety. At only 19, he made enough money as he secured the lives of his family. He could die today and still know that he did enough, but he can't. He hopes to live more as he is an only child. In the only verse, he talks about love in form of a lover and in form of his family. He needs to keep grinding for his loved ones as they keep him safe. So the least that he can do is to make money. He mentions how he made $60,000 just last month, but the way he says it seems like he doesn't think that that's enough. Oh, and this one line doesn't make sense, but we'll get to that later. Counted Up may also seem like he's talking about money, and it could be about money, but I think that he's counting up the real people around him. Throughout the song, he's constantly talking about his friends, his oppositions, and the influence his friends have on him as a person. This is such a great line as it's actually so true. You are formed by the people around you and especially friends as you spend the most amount of time around them. In the verse, he talks about death and how you can lose everything in a second, but he doesn't want that anymore as he found his escape throughout and people around him. IK or just I Know starts with a sample of an unreleased Kevin Abstract song that features Lil Nas X. Kevin's vocals are pitched up and he talks about a relationship. They indicate how Glaive and this girl just should end up as friends and nothing more. Glaive opens the song up with this,
I don't like when the car goes too fast.
which, going back to 60,000 ISK, this brother is defo bipolar 1 and 2. Glaive talks about his social anxiety in this song a lot. He's nervous around people and especially girls, and he doesn't like social gatherings despite how social he may seem to others. I relate to this part of the song heavy as I'm low-key the same. A lot of people think I'm an extrovert and that I'm really easy to talk to and that I'm very social, which I try to be as much as I can, and I guess it's working, but every time I need to go to a party or a concert or any big social gathering, I get nervous as hell. I always end up getting some sort of panic attack, and every time I'm very close to cancelling and just not going at all. A couple of years ago I did end up cancelling as I always made up some excuse not to go, but in reality I was just nervous. I'm glad I stopped doing that and that now I have the courage to go and that I at least seem social and outgoing to others, while in reality I'm still a social mess. Yeah, Glaive also kind of feels the same way. I kind of forgot about him. The instrumental of the song is so good and is a very big step up in Glaive's style as he never rapped and or sang over this type of instrumental. It almost sounds like a Drake type beat, and it's so fascinating that Glaive used this type of beat for such a personal topic. Joel, the next track on the album, is named after Glaive's late friend Joel. It's a very beautiful song with only an acoustic guitar and some background strings, I think. Glaive expresses how things aren't the same since his friend passed and how he can't accept the fact that they are gone. The chorus of the song is very dark and just depressing. Glaive feels survivor's guilt as he feels guilty having fun without Joel as he feels like he's abandoning him. Glaive also expresses how he wishes that he had died instead of Joel as he now holds so much pain in him, which is just so sad. In the second verse, Glaive tells us how he beat up someone when they told him to let go of Joel, which is sweet in a sense. In the rest of the verse, Glaive expresses how he has been holding on to Joel just to not forget about them as a lot of time has passed since their death. The outro is also very sweet in a sense as it's a direct message to everyone else. Glaive feels like everyone tiptoes around Joel's death and no one addresses it directly, which Glaive doesn't like. After this, we transition into the next track, which is Live and Direct. Now, this song got hate on release and it's still to this day people's least favorite on the album. The fact that this song is right after Joel on the tracklist is also a crime in my opinion. Joel is a heartfelt song about Glaive's deceased friend and Glaive's emotional trauma because of that situation, while this song is about fucking and just how good Glaive and Curtains are. Don't get me wrong, I love this song and I was defending it on release, but I agree that the tracklist is a bit messy with this one. Nonetheless, Live and Direct is about Glaive's and Curtains' sexual preferences and how good their music is. They rap over this trap/country instrumental which absolutely slaps. In the only verse, Glaive looks down upon his actions when he was younger and how he hates himself from that period of his life. There is also some ego jerking in the verse and yeah, that's the whole song, I'm not gonna lie. Knock Draw Release is a very honest song from Glaive that touches on themes of honesty. Over this almost ambient beat, Glaive starts with questioning this girl. He tells her not to worry as she's stressing over her look, and then Glaive starts with the self-hatred part of the song. He tells her that it's not a good idea to get with him, or as he puts it,
Hey, you Mary Quatermass, man, you heard it, baby.
he has many problems and for her own good it's not a good idea to get with him as he will just ruin her. He knows that she knows these things as others have already told her, which also confirms to Glaive that his flaws are true. In the chorus, Glaive says that he's slowly trying to get better, but it's still a risk for this girl to get with him as he still isn't fully ready to get with actually anyone. He is trying, but it's just not the right time yet. This is a very mature song from Glaive as he could easily get with this girl to fill his void of loneliness, but he chooses the more mature route in the end. Every Dog Has Its Day is one of the most straightforward tracks on the album. It's a definition of a banger. It has this electronic beat with fat bass hits that destroy your ears. It's a track about Glaive's fortune, his popularity as a young icon, his guns and how others treat him. He flexes how much money he has, how he incites riots when he goes somewhere and things like that. Just go and listen to the track as it's very addictive to listen to. Freudian is probably my favorite song off of the album and trust me, it goes absolutely crazy. It has this very bouncy, fast-paced and electronic beat with some crazy distortion going on. Glaive talks about his preferences in girls which are similar to Sigmund Freud's beliefs. Sigmund Freud was an Austrian neurologist who was very influential and had many unique ideologies and outlooks on human behavior. One of them was the idea that humans are attracted to people who resemble people from their childhood, which Glaive expresses in the chorus. In the chorus, he also expresses his love for his friends and throws some shade to his ex as he's totally over her. In the first verse, in which Glaive is actually rapping, he talks about his mental health and its state. His therapist says that he is doing better but he doesn't really feel it. He then talks about more preferences in regards to girls. He also shouts out his collective Slow Silver 03 and he promises that his song topics are based on real life events. After the chorus, we go into the second verse and Glaive switches his flow in such a seamless way. He mentions World of T-shirts out of all people and he talks more about his friends and how they will protect him. He also mentions his collective again and also makes a reference to his debut album. Nobody's Fault / Except My Own is a very cryptic song that I'm yet to fully unpack. It starts very subtle and slow, but over the time of the cryptic first verse, the beat builds as Glaive talks about something? Once the chorus hits, an EDM style drop happens while Glaive confesses that it has been his own fault this whole time and no one else's. He also mentions how he is off a pill right now and how it almost killed him. After the intense chorus, we enter the second verse which is filled with cryptic imagery. He also makes a reference to his unreleased track $30 t-shirt I Might As Well Die In. He then touches on his feminine side, saying how he basically acts like a daughter to his mother. Then the EDM build happens again, and it goes on until the rest of the song, which really feels like you're in this constant loop of madness, sound, and regret. By Birthright uses the original name of the album, and it's an acoustic song from Glaive. It closes this chaotic album in a solid way, I guess. Look, I don't like this song, and except the track listing, it's my only gripe with this album. I don't like the instrumental, and Glaive's vocals are very annoying on here. The song also follows a very strict progression style, and it doesn't interest me in the slightest. The lyrics are the best part of the song, but they are also just nothing interesting, to be honest. The whole song lacks that writing style and just an overall vibe that a Glaive song has. It just feels empty and stale when compared to the rest of the album. The actual lyrics are about the idea that Glaive got when talking to his mother. She told him that everything that happens to you is deserved because it is yours by birthright. Made Never Falter came out to some pretty good reception. In my personal opinion, it's one of the best albums of 2024 and is Glaive's best project to date. If a bit of a mad one wasn't enough for people to realize that Glaive was back better than ever, then Made Never Falter was definitely enough. But that wasn't all for Glaive. After the release of Made Never Falter, Glaive would keep his foot on the gas as he would feature on a couple more songs, do some shows, and release even more music and preview some new material. It was a really good year for Glaive, and if I learned at least something from him, that would be to not kill yourself. Nah, but for real, don't let one bad moment define who you are, as life is beautiful and has a lot to offer. Please don't do something stupid with your life, speak to someone, go do something and seek help. Mental health is serious and don't be ashamed to talk about it.
Ne, ovo se zahrđalo, da.
Ne, to ne radi više na šanse. Ne, sereš.
Prije.
Nemoj jebat. Do you want to play a game?
Sve fale vrata da ti velim game over. Znači, odi dolje i snimaj me od ispod. Da gledam u rupu.
I slušaj, i to... I to... What the hell?
Fuck!